Scratch is no laughing matter. And then in this walkthrough, I'll show you step by step how to make the no laughing matter app. First, we're going to take Scratch the Cat, and I'm going to slide Scratch the Cat over. And I'm going to add another sprite for Scratch to interact with my Knock Knock joke. So Scratch is one sprite. I'm going to choose a different sprite. There are lots of sprites to choose from, but I'm going to pick Andy. So I'm going to position Andy by click and then dragging Andy to where I want Andy. I can click and drag Scratch and move Scratch to where I want Scratch. I can also delete Scratch and replace Scratch with another character if you don't want to use Scratch the Cat. But I'm totally content with Scratch the Cat. So I'm going to start with the classic Knock Knock line. So I go to Events. Then in the events, I hit the when green flag is clicked. My blocks look a little different because I've magnified them to make it a little easier for you to see on the screen. And I'm going to have Scratch speak. When the green flag is clicked, I'm going to have Scratch say, knock, knock, the classic opening line. And Scratch is going to say that for 2 seconds. Then I want Andy to reply to that. So this code is attached to Scratch the Cat, Sprite 1. When I click on Andy down in the sprites, my code goes away. Well, that's because this code is attached to the sprite. It's still attached to Scratch, but when I click on Andy, now I have the code for Andy. And Andy is going to reply with the classic line. I use the when green flag is clicked. I go over to looks, and I'm going to have Andy reply with the classic line, who's there? So now what I want to happen is I want Scratch to say knock knock, and I want Andy to say who's there. But that's not what's going to happen. It's not going to look like a conversation. Watch this. Knock knock, who's there? They both happen at the same time. It does exactly what I programmed it to do. So what I have to do is I have to place a wait block between the Scratch talking, knock knock, and Andy talking, who's there. I'm going to create the illusion of a conversation. Even though it's not a conversation, it's just an illusion that it's a conversation. So I'm going to add this wait block, and I'm going to put it between when the green flag is clicked and who's there, and I happen to know it's a 2-second wait because Scratch says knock knock for 2 seconds, and then Andy says who's there for 2 seconds. Now it will have the illusion of a conversation. Let's watch. Knock knock, who's there? Perfect. Now after Andy says who's there, I want Scratch to deliver the line, Roach. Now you probably already see the problem with this because they're going to say it at the same time. I have to add that 2-second delay. I just happen to know things are 2 seconds long. So I'm going to put in between the blocks. See how I can kind of put it in between the blocks? So it's going to say knock knock. Scratch is going to say knock knock. Then Scratch is going to wait 2 seconds. Then Scratch will say Roach, and it will look like a conversation. Let's watch. Knock knock. Who's there? Roach. Nice. Now the timing is getting a little annoying to me. So what I want to do is I want to use another more advanced programming method called a broadcast message. After Scratch says Roach, I'm going to use a broadcast message to send throughout the app so my timing stays accurate and I don't have to keep adding up all these times. I'm going to send a message throughout the entire program that tells Andy that it's his turn to say Roach who. So I'm going to make a Roach who block, and when the program gets to this point, throughout the entire program, every single block is going to be sent, or every single sprite is going to be sent the message Roach who. I'm going to have Andy. When Andy receives the Roach who message, Andy is going to say his line, Roach who. Let's look at how that looks. Knock knock. Who's there? Roach. Roach who. Instead of using the timings, I'm now using the broadcast message and receive message. Now I'm going to, after Andy says row chew, I'm going to ask Andy to do the same thing. And I'm going to have Andy broadcast a message that's going to be the final joke, final line of the joke. So after you say row chew, toss it, say final line, send that broadcast through the whole program. And I'm going to have Scratch. When Scratch receives final line, I'm going to have Scratch say the final line, which is roach you an email. Get it? So let's see this whole joke in action. Knock, knock. Who's there? Roach. Wrote you an email. Get it? Now I want both characters at the same time to start laughing. So I'm going to add a broadcast message to go through the whole program that tells everyone to laugh. I wish I could do this in my class and just make a broadcast message that tells everyone to laugh, because my jokes are hilarious. But when I receive ha ha, I want you to say ha 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 ha. And then I'm going to switch to Andy. And when Andy receives the message ha ha, I want Andy to say, oh, not for 2 seconds, I want Andy to keep saying it. Ha, ha, ha. There we go. All right, let's see how this looks complete. Knock, knock. Who's there? Roach. Roach you? Wrote you an email. Get it? Ha, ha, ha. Everyone laughs. Now when you're done with the project, what you want to do, oh, I forgot to give it a name too. I'm going to give it a name. Scratch joke. I'm going to click on the share button. Now I can edit any of these, but the key thing I want to do is I want to add it to our class studio. So I'm going to click on add it to studio. Now I have a lot of different things just because of this account that I'm in, but you would look for the Scratch joke one, which should come up, and then you'd click on it, and Scratch joke isn't listed on this one because it's one of my own galleries, but you just click on that, the plus, for example, you would click on it, and you would go okay, and then it will be added to the studio. If you're having problems adding it to the studio, feel free to click on this link, copy it, and then you can email it to me and I'll manually add it to the studio for you. No problem at all. Good luck making your Scratch joke.